Our guest today is Lee Graham from Quadient Smart Lockers. Thanks for joining us today, Lee.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, David.
Pleasure. Please tell us about your business, what it does and where it fits in the supply chain.
Yeah, sure, of course. So Quadient is an old company. We're actually about 100 years old. We're probably more known to anyone in and around logistics as Neopost, which is what we were founded as, but we're a very different business to what we once were. Quadient's a global company operating across three fairly distinct business units, David. One is called Mail, which is our traditional Neopost business, One Digital, and My World is Lockers. Both three very strong, distinct organizations, really, but when they come together, the sum of all their parts give us what we are today. So we help organizations communicate, automate, and deliver, really. That's what we do. Be that physically or digitally, and they tend to overlap more now maybe than they ever have before. So that's kind of who we are. We're a global operation with those three different areas.
Thank you. And I always ask people the same question: what brought you into the lovely world of logistics?
Well, I'm not entirely sure it was by design. I think if you look at the organization I spoke about a moment ago, Quadient, and how our business has changed, it was more of a result of that rather than anything else. So my career history really is sat between two companies, if I'm honest. I spent 14 years before Quadient at Pitney Bowes, who are a major player along with Quadient in the mail industry. So it's adjacent to logistics. Mail and logistics share very similar DNA. Lots and lots of companies that play and operate in mail also operate in logistics. So having spent 14 years at Pitney Bowes and about the same time really now, it's gone very quickly at Quadient, it was really the development of our lockers business that has drawn me in and around the logistics sphere. So in my previous role before becoming sales director for lockers, I was involved in numerous projects that pushed me closer to and alongside lockers, and that's where it came from. So I fell in love with that. I've been doing that for 2 years now, just over. So I suppose I'm an old hand in the overall industry, but a baby in logistics specifically.
No, okay, thank you. And obviously there's a lot going on in the locker sector. So tell us about the locker sector and how you see it developing over the next few years.
So I think it will enter a new phase moving forward, David, or at least it feels like it's going to, where lockers, and by the way, we've stopped calling them parcel lockers, and I'll explain a little bit later why that is. You know, they're lockers for us, and our business is called Lockers and not parcel lockers for a reason. But I think they'll shift away from being a convenience to more of an infrastructure project for us, companies like us, and parcel carriers looking to develop networks. And I think if you look at examples like EV chargers, or even broadband, right? And I know it sounds ridiculous, how they've gone from being a nice to have to a must have. And I think that industry, it's really become essential infrastructure now rather than a nice to have. That's the big change for me.
No, that's good. It must be interesting when, you know, almost people are coming when you're originally maybe like a more, like as you described, an add-on, you're now an essential, you know, and part of the infrastructure.
Well, I think so, because all our behaviours have changed as consumers. Our expectations are much higher. We want things now. We want them easy. For me, I don't know whether we're becoming lazy by nature, but human beings want that instant gratification, and variety and choice. So I want something as quick as I want it, in a way that I want to have it delivered to me. And so choice and options like lockers now are responding to that change of behaviour, I think.
No, thank you. And how do you see the both the opportunities and the threats to the sector over the next few years?
So I think the sector itself And the opportunities that it brings the sector are maybe slightly different to the opportunities it brings Quadient specifically. We're often seen in the industry as and I want to be clear, David, actually, because it's confusing sometimes. Parcel pending is often a name you hear associated with our lockers business, and it's a brand really. Parcel pending by Quadient is our brand for our lockers business. But regardless of that, I just wanted to be clear on that. I think for us particularly, our locker network will change and diversify almost in the same way that our whole company has changed and diversified. So if we remained a mail company, as we were historically, I don't think the future would have been incredibly robust for Quadient. So it's been a brave move and a bold move in the last 10 or 15 years to move into lockers and digital. So that's sensible. And the same with our locker network, and in this industry for us now in particular, if we just stick to taking parcels and yours and my vinted exchanges going back and forth, for example, or things we buy off eBay or from Temu, then again, I think we need to become more than that. So for our locker network, the multi-use of lockers, I think, will be the biggest opportunity for us moving forward. Now that could be varied. That could be anything from luggage storage, which we do quite a lot of, key exchange. So we have partnerships with the Airbnb providers, Key Nest, where you can collect and drop off a key for an Airbnb at a locker at a time that suits you. And down the road, I see things like dry cleaning and a big boom in spare parts management. So for me, and that's already an existing market, but forward stock locations as part of in-night deliveries for supply chain companies is a hugely aggressive and competitive market. And as our locker network now has grown to between 2,500 and 3,000 at the time of recording this, the availability of our lockers in great locations is becoming really attractive to those supply chain companies. So I think from our perspective, that will open up new opportunities for us, and the market as a whole. It's probably looping back to what I said a moment ago, that acceptance that, and I'll call them parcel lockers again now, are part of infrastructure and a shared infrastructure that will see continued exponential growth. So I think that's the big opportunity, has to be growth for the number of lockers.
No, thank you. And how do you see the continual changes in technology affecting, complementing your sector?
It's a strange one because ultimately, and I don't want to dumb down anything we or any of our friendly competitors do in lockers, they're fairly basic, right? They're a giant metal cupboard, right? And I know that sounds awful, but at its core, David, that's what they are. What makes them great is the software and the technology that lies behind them. Now, every podcast I watch or every conference I go to, everyone, the obsession with talking about AI is quite something, right? And I think realistically, AI on parcel lockers themselves is probably not a thing, but in the background, in route optimization, in location of lockers and capacity management, I think things like AI will definitely play a part. But I wouldn't expect to turn up to hey, I might be wrong, but I wouldn't expect to turn up to anyone's parcel locker and see a digital kind of person on screen having an AI conversation with you to advise you how to collect or drop off a parcel. I think that maybe is overkill, but in the background, I think it will definitely play a part.
And obviously, I'm not a techie by any stance. So, but do you think there'll be a point when, I walk up to a bank of lockers and they go, "Oh, it's Dave coming along," and almost he knows I'm there, my phone's there, and that locker opens, or is that too radical?
No, I don't think it is radical. I really don't. I think that location intelligence and that kind of connectivity at a locker NFP will be a big change. I wouldn't expect in the future to walk up and scan a barcode or print a label. I mean, right now, label printing at a locker is a technological leap forward. There aren't many that do that. I think there's in the UK maybe only 2 that do that, where if you need to do a return and you haven't got a printer at home, you can rock up at the locker, scan a barcode, and a label will be printed for you to stick it on the item. A lot of parcel carriers are desperately trying to move to label-less delivery, so some way of identifying you or the transaction at the locker will probably be a big step forward in the coming years, definitely.
Okay, good. And it'll be interesting to see how it develops.
Yeah.
And what are people in the sector maybe not talking about that they should be?
All right. So, did you know that that's a big question that they ask on one of the world's biggest podcasts? It's trigonometry. They ask that at the end of every podcast. They say, right, what's the one big thing that we should be talking about, but we're not? So you're on track, David, with this question on a podcast for sure.
That's luck.
Exactly. I'm sure they're copying you for sure. So I think our behavior, right? So what are we not talking about? I think consumer behavior at the moment in the UK is that I'll buy what I want, I'll return what I want, and I want it delivered to home. And I think that that will change significantly. So the assumption that I can get free delivery at home, the assumption that it's okay to do what's called bracketing, where I buy a bunch of things. I don't know, I buy 5 things and I maybe return 3. I think that will become a thing that retailers and parcel carriers will look to charge more for. I think now a lot of retailers are profiling their customer base to figure out who is repeat offenders with consistent returns. So I think the way our consumer behavior has maybe got a little bit out of control, and retailers and delivery companies might need to find ways to regain some of that control, could be a thing. I mean, another thing that maybe people aren't talking about, but we're trying to here at Quadient, we conduct freedom of information requests every year around kind of peaks of Black Friday, Christmas time, around parcel thefts. So porch piracy and parcel thefts are a big problem. Just under £700 million worth of parcels were stolen from doorsteps in the UK last year, and that was almost twice as many as the year before. So having alternative ways of having something delivered when you're not at home, and we think lockers are great for that, but shops are also another out-of-home point, could see us doing that a lot more moving forward.
No, very interesting, and we shall watch and see. And how does the green transition that everyone's trying to go through, wanting to go through, affect your sector?
So there's probably a couple of ways, I think. One, and we all talk about it, everyone in lockers, I think, talks about how a locker itself is a consolidated delivery or collection point. It's a consolidated pinch point. So if I'm a parcel delivery driver and I go to one locker and drop off 40 parcels rather than go to 40 houses, I think that's probably better. Now, the argument against that is, well, those 40 people are having to go to the locker, but a lot of our research suggests that not everyone drives, right? So if it's a locker in a convenient location, we often talk in the industry about slipper distance. So if I can go to the locker in my slippers without looking like a fool, then I will walk to the locker, right? So that is definitely, or I'll go to the locker in a journey I'm already doing. So that might be a school run, that might be going to the supermarket or filling my car up with fuel. So I think from a green perspective, it's a no-brainer that, and we're talking to a lot of the local authorities, David, about how they can reduce the number of delivery vans driving around their borough, particularly in London. So that's one. There's a couple more if you think we've got time to talk about them. Yeah. So another one is the way they draw power. So there's big debates in our industry as well about mains powered lockers versus battery or solar lockers. General rule of thumb at the moment is that a mains powered locker can offer more functionality and tends to, not always, tends to work better, more reliable. That said, as battery technology and solar technology improves, that is an obvious way to make a locker more appealing as a green multiplier. So we're working on that. We expect to have our first battery and solar powered locker. We've got our first one on the ground, but the first few in test in the next few months. But I think that will be a debate moving forward. And also, I don't know, how good is it for the environment to have in one place 4 or 5 big metal parcel lockers? Our network is agnostic. We're quite fortunate that in one locker you can have 4 or 5 different parcel carriers in one place. And you'd like to think that having one to deal with multiple is better than putting 4 or 5 in the same place. But maybe I'm a bit biased there. And the last one, it might not be interesting to everybody, but I think it's definitely our government and local authorities are talking about the circular economy a lot more now. And what I mean by that, and how we think our lockers are going to help people a bit with that, is we are about to sign a partnership with an organization that enables you to hire products from people in the local area that you don't have without going to buy them on a short-term borrow. So, for example, David, if I want to do some DIY at the weekend and I don't own a particular drill or a strimmer, right, and I don't want to buy one, but I also don't want to go to a commercial hire company because that might be expensive or a bit of overkill, and I can go onto an app and see that you've got one that you're happy to rent out to me for the weekend, then I'll pay you through this app and you'll drop it off at a locker, I'll collect it, when I've finished I'll drop it back there. So that kind of don't buy, borrow circular economy is really big with councils and local authorities at the moment, and we're about to start trying to help people with that product exchange. So quite a good green angle there.
Yeah, I think that'll be very good and very useful. And obviously, from an outsider doing what I do, you watch the economy market, which is enormous and keeps developing, and by its nature is definitely greener than buying from new. It's really good. So
that circular economy is why Vinted is so popular, right? So the amount of waste we would all traditionally have by throwing things away that we don't need anymore. People are quite common to wander around their house and find something they don't like and not put it in the bin, put it on Vinted as an example. And there are other sites are available, but it's a great example of how maybe we can all get a bit better at that.
Yeah, definitely. And the final question I ask everyone is, if you could speak to the government, then what would you ask them to do to help your business grow and flourish?
So it ties in with a couple of things we've already said. It would be to look at lockers as a critical infrastructure and out-of-home infrastructure. So there needs to be a framework similar to probably what would have happened decades ago with letterboxes. So there was a time walking around the UK where there wasn't a Royal Mail letterbox at the end of every street, right? And I imagine that was a problem at the time. So, and I also imagine when they started installing letterboxes on people's streets, that upset the odd NIMBY. But now they're commonplace, right? It's commonplace that there is a letterbox all over towns, and that's convenient for people, and it helps with that mail delivery infrastructure. So it's looking at lockers in the same way moving forward. Mail is in decline, but parcels are doing the exact opposite. So planning permission around allowing us and our competitors to put lockers in convenient places for the general public. There seems to be a trend at the moment. I'm sure there's companies out there trying to make a fast buck on this, where they're looking at lockers and they're going to try and help with planning permission requests and business rates as well. You shouldn't be looking at charging business rates on a parcel locker if I have one at my business premises. So those would be the two things: some legislation and framework around parcel lockers as an infrastructure project, definitely.
Great. Okay. Well, I just want to say thanks very much for your time, Lee. It's been really interesting in your views, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners will really enjoy it.
I hope so. All right. Thanks, David.